Spring break has come and gone. We are in the back half of the semester, and now is the perfect time to reflect on your studies and how you are feeling at this point in the semester. This special post-spring break episode is all about checking in with you. Welcome to Playing the Ace. We have got a packed panel episode for you this week, featuring representatives from academic affairs and student affairs. I will be asking them some questions about how to reflect on your overall standing as we move into the second half of the semester. Let's meet our panelists.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joan Dollop. I direct the academic advising here at Our Lady of the Lake University. Welcome to Playing the Ace.
Hello, I'm Dr. Kirsten Kamara. I'm the director of the Academic Center for Excellence and the Mary Francine Danis Writing Center.
Hi, my name is Dr. Cheshire. I'm a Math Center Coordinator. I'm also a faculty member. I teach mathematics and I work with our tutors.
Hi, I'm Dr. J. I'm the Executive Director of the Wellness Center, which includes accessibility services, counseling services, and the Health Education Resource Office. And I am also an assistant professor in the counseling psychology program.
Hello, I'm Janet Huppel, and I'm the Director of Accessibility Services at Our Lady of the Lake, and I'm also part of the Wellness Center.
Our first question goes to Joan. What should students be reflecting on right now regarding midterm grades and the direction of their semester?
That's a great question, Sabrina. And as an advisor and someone in the advising staff, we encourage students to kind of take a breath and reflect because we're a little more than halfway through the semester. Many times students may be taking 4 or 5 classes and one class is giving a particular difficulty. You really want to visit with your advisor about that because you want to ascertain whether that class is salvageable, if you put in extra work, or in fact, if it's a good time to drop that class and maybe restart that class in the following semester. The last day to drop a class with a W and not be issued a grade for that class is April 7th. So that's a really important date for students to keep in mind. If they are contemplating how many of their classes they can successfully pass, then that's the date to kind of make sure that you drop in time without having a grade issue. But the most important thing is talking to your professors because a lot of students may report to us, I'm not sure how I'm doing, I think I'm doing well, or I haven't had enough grades to know how well I'm doing. You can demystify that right away by speaking with your professor because they can tell you if you're making good gains in a particular course. But professor conversation and your own self-reflection about how well you're doing in the course is probably the most important thing to do this time of year.
Joan, can you remind us of that withdrawal date again, please?
Thank you, Sabrina. The last day to drop a class without a grade issue for that class is April 7th. One other thing I want to mention on that, prior to dropping, you always want to check with our financial aid office to know, in fact, whether or not that drop is going to affect your aid for the current semester or a subsequent semester. Every student's situation is different. Some students are on loans, some have grants, some have scholarships that require a certain amount of hours. So prior to dropping, you want to have that consultation with financial aid.
Now, reflecting on grades also means considering what help you may need to turn your semester in a more positive direction. Doctors Kamara and Cheshire, can you offer us an example of how students could best utilize the writing and tutoring centers at this mid-semester point if they are struggling with a course?
I would always tell students to start before you're struggling because there's a couple of things that happen in a session. It's not just going over what you're having trouble with, but ascertaining what you really know and feel confident about so that you can build from that. And So it's never too early to come in when you're working on a problem set, or you're writing a paper, or you're studying for a test in chemistry or accounting or finance, because a tutor is going to have a really good conversation with you about what you're working on, you know, how you take notes, what your notes say, where you're at in the class, and then where your stumbling point might be, or where you might feel like there's some information that you're not sure if you're getting right. And the sooner and the more often you go over that material, the richer the conversations are, and the more you are just going to remember it. You're going to learn it. It's going to become part of the way you talk and think in that class. So, and ditto for the writing center. If you come in when you know you have a paper due, and you start talking about it early, like your ideas and your brainstorming and understanding the prompt and getting ideas down, you're learning as you're talking about it. And that helps so much. So I always say, of course, come in now. If you're struggling with anything, come in now and start talking about what you're struggling with. And ultimately, what you're going to discover is you probably know more than you think you do. And what you know is going to help you find the answer and position yourself for what you are struggling with. But I would say come in, make an appointment, even if it's a half hour, or you end up staying 15 minutes, but you leave, you know, with the light bulb on. So yeah, and Dr. Cheshire, you probably want to add to that specifically with math, because math is ongoing in terms of thinking and working on it. It's not just, you know, that 5-minute, let me finish my homework, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And did you know, for every hour of class on a student's schedule, your professor expects you to study for 2 to 3 additional hours outside of class. And that sounds like a lot of studying, but of course it's only a general guideline. The amount of time that you spend studying outside of a class depends on your motivation, your level of understanding in the class, and your study habits. But by spending 30 minutes to an hour with an ACE tutor, even every week, you could not only knock out some of that time spent working outside of class, but also help you to make the time that you do spend more effective. You can spend this time with your tutor in so many different ways, targeting important concepts from the homework or studying for tests, especially in a math or a science class. I think that's a really important aspect of tutoring. And if you're supposed to spend that time studying anyway, why not do it with a friendly and knowledgeable partner who can encourage you and guide you when you need a little extra help? So I would suggest regular tutoring at the ACE for any student who wants to succeed in their class, regardless of your standing. It's not too late. There's still plenty of time to catch up and improve your grades. In fact, let your professor know that you're interested in catching up and that you're working with a tutor and doing your best in the class. They really will appreciate that effort.
This time in the semester, we focus on reflecting on your academics. But we all require balance, and that means also checking in with you as a living, breathing, feeling person. In addition to the stress of the semester, we are still working through the pandemic, and most recently, the winter storms that hit hard here in Texas. This might just be me, but I feel like that week is lost in time, like we were really frozen. Dr. J, could you share with us some tips to help manage stress, or ideas for someone who may be feeling stress from multiple sources, like school, self-discovery?
Yeah, thanks so much for including us, Sabrina. I really appreciate you always ensuring that the whole person of the student is addressed in times like these, and recognizing it's not just about academic performance, but about overall well-being. When it comes to stress management, I think the first thing that I would encourage students to reflect on is what are the things that are within your control and what are the things that are outside your control? Because how you manage the stress related to those two categories looks very different. The things within your control, we would suggest things like prioritizing, right? Planning accordingly, time management, all of those skills really help to make the stress, it helps to reduce the stress, to help the stress seem less overwhelming, right? If we're setting smaller goals and making sure that those things fit within our schedule, it just seems more feasible for us. And so things within your control, like assignments for courses, that would be a perfect one, right? If you're able to maintain a calendar, carve out time where you know you're most productive, that would be helpful, right? Knowing a lot about yourself and how you best learn, how you best function, when you best function, all of those things are really important. But then there's this other side of things, as you mentioned, like with the pandemic or with the storm, completely out of our hands, where no amount of planning can really help with the stress that comes from that. And so with those sorts of issues, I really recommend a lot of relaxation and mindfulness practices. So for folks who don't know, mindfulness practices are techniques that just center us and bring us back to the present moment. A lot of our stress comes from thinking about the past or worrying about what's going to happen in the future. So if we use techniques that bring us back to the present moment, our mind doesn't have the ability to go to either place. Some common mindfulness, pretty simple techniques are deep breathing. A lot of times people have used box breathing as a form of this. You inhale through your nose for 4 seconds, hold, exhale through your mouth for 4 seconds, hold. And I know it comes up actually, like reminders for breathing come up on smartwatches and stuff. So take a minute every hour to do that. Those can be helpful. Grounding techniques like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, where you identify and describe in as much detail 5 things that you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste, is really helpful and can be fun. You can imagine if you're taking the time to describe in as much detail those things, your mind doesn't really have time to worry about other things. So there are a lot of different techniques. Those are just a couple of them. I'm happy to provide handouts. It would take a lot of time for me to go through all different things. Progressive muscle relaxation is another one, but happy to share those resources in any way I can.
Managing sources of stress is also important if you have been dealing with new illnesses, recurring medical issues, or other factors that can have an effect on your learning. Janet, what kind of support can students who may be experiencing new or long-term medical issues find with your office? I'm always surprised, but more so worried, that students are not aware of the help they can find with the Accessibility Office.
Sabrina, I'm really glad you asked about that, especially right now, because we have had a lot of students that have had temporary illnesses, such as getting COVID, or maybe being in quarantine, or getting the flu, or things like that. And students can get, for a temporary condition, we can do temporary accommodations. If we find out there are some rare cases like with COVID where there's lingering effects that are more than temporary, we can definitely make those more than temporary if that's the case. But we can definitely do that. And other temporary conditions might be like you had a car accident, or maybe an athletic injury. Maybe you were hurt you're a baseball player and you got hurt in the game, or something like that. We can definitely do that. Concussions is another one that comes up. And also for permanent conditions could be permanent medical conditions, maybe some mental health type of concerns, or if the student has maybe a learning disability or another recognized condition that they might have already been receiving something for, maybe in high school, or maybe they weren't and they just got tested, or they just have a new concern. We can definitely help with that. And I think I think you're right. We don't always hear from students. Sometimes students think we're going to know because they knew in high school, and we don't unless they tell us. But we definitely can help with those things. And so they can go to the webpage there under the menu and go to the academic services and find our office that way, or just sending an email to ada@olusa.edu is a really easy way to reach out, and then we'll reach back out to you and provide information about how to request an accommodation, and if there's testing that the student needs, we can help refer them for that as well. But definitely don't discount the fact that we can definitely help with some things.
Thank you so much to our panelists for recording with me during spring break. I hope that this episode is helpful to our students. Know that wherever you are at this point in the semester, you have all of us and plenty of others ready and happy to help. If you have an idea for an episode, email us at writing@olusa.edu or DM us on Instagram or one of our other social media platforms. Thanks for watching Playing the Ace. We'll see you next week. Stay safe, wear your mask, and practice kindness. And remember, don't gamble with your academic success.
Playing the Ace is a new web series from ALU's Academic Center for Excellence. Every week, we will be talking about elements and strategies that can help you develop as a learner. Join us and enhance your learning experience.